Okay, this test is something that I wanted to do for a long time. It's the sugar battle. So we have dextrose and we have sorbitol. Both of these sugars are really good at trapping water and lowering the water activity. If you don't know what water activity is, it's the efficiency of the sugar in trapping water. And the more efficient the sugar is trapping the water, the less available the water is gonna be for bacteria to feed from, and that is gonna make your bacteria less prone to grow if your water activity is very low. So water activity is kind of very scientific, and we have a water activity meter that we are measuring our water activity with. So it's gonna be very interesting for me to see how big of a difference it is. So I created two identical ganaches. This is one of our working horses. It's a dark milk chocolate ganache. My son's favorite. He loves the small little truffle balls with this milk chocolate ganache in there. I created two identical recipes, but we are gonna have the same amount of dextrose in one and the same amount of sorbitol in one, and see what results we are gonna get. So we're not gonna deep dive into the sugars and the functions of them. I do that in my fillings class. But dextrose is fructose, it's a fruit-based sugar, and the sorbitol is a sugar alcohol. Both of them are very efficient in lowering the water activity, meaning that they absorb water really well and trap it to keep the bacteria away from feeding from the water in the filling. Okay. So I've left, or I scaled everything in these fillings. We have the cream, butter, we have the glucose, we have the Sapalme 43% dark chocolate dark milk chocolate in here. The one thing that is missing is the sugars. So we're gonna add exactly the same amount to both of them. So I'm gonna add 25 grams of dextrose. There we go. And we're also gonna do the same with the sorbitol. So we have exactly the same amount. So I'm gonna warm the cream here up to around 80 degrees Celsius, pour it over the chocolate, let it melt. So this is a very, very basic and easy way of creating a ganache. We are probably not going to temper our ganaches for this test, because this is just a side-by-side test and see the efficiency of the sugar. But in our production, we always temper our ganaches for better stability and texture over time. Sometimes a good tip when you are making a ganache, especially like white ganaches and milk chocolate ganaches, is that you don't have enough liquid or the heat from the liquid is not going to be enough, because the volume of liquid is not enough to melt all the chocolate properly. So it could be a really good idea sometimes to preheat your chocolate a little bit, and by doing that you are making sure that you are having the mass in high enough temperature so you can emulsify it properly and have a really nice ganache and emulsion. So I do that by just popping it in the microwave for maybe 30 seconds to 1 minute before I add the liquid on top of here. Alrighty. Okay, so creating a ganache is a very, very specific and precise science. So just adding a little bit of cream and a little bit of butter and a bit of chocolate and try to get a nice texture is just not gonna cut it if you are gonna create a professionally balanced and shelf-stable ganache. So if you do, for example, a 1-to-1 ganache, which is a kind of a classic ratio, that ganache is gonna contain too much water and it's gonna mold within days. So maybe 2-3 days in, it's gonna start to mold, which you cannot have when you're making bonbons, because they're gonna sit out in room temperature for a long time. So the science on creating a ganache is very, very precise, and it demands a lot of knowledge And of course, I do teach that exact science with my ganache calculator and how to in my fillings class. But we are going to make these ganaches in the most simple way, which is just heat the cream, butter, sugars, pour it over the chocolate, emulsify it, put it in a piping bag or pastry bag, and then pipe it into our testing cups. And these are going to go into the water activity meter that is going to detect the free water in the ganaches, and we're going to see the results that we get. So to create a really nice emulsion, as you can see down in here, if you have a little closer look here, you can see that it's not really coming together fully. It's kind of like oily surface and it's a little bit lumpy. So that is going to be fixed with the stick blender. So a nice emulsion is usually very glossy and nice. It's not like the proof that everything is fine, but a nice glossy emulsion like this is usually a great sign that you have a nicely balanced recipe. So as you can see, there's a very nice texture here, very easy to pipe, and it's gonna set and be very creamy and filled with a lot of flavor. So if you're making small batches, this is a really neat trick to cool them down quickly. Put them in a piping bag like this. Keep the bag a little bit loose so you have a lot of room to spread out the ganache in the piping bag. Preferably on a stone top, but you can just roll it like this. And when it's down to around 28, 29 degrees, it's time to pipe. And this is really the easy way, or the easiest way to make a ganache. As I said, we temper our ganaches for ultra stability and texture over time. But if you're a homemaker and just having fun with it and making small batches like this, 500 grams, this is a really cool trick. When I was working full-time, 5 months, absolutely full-time and even more than that, to create my fillings class, I created 450 gram batches because I realized that this was the smallest amount I could make to be able to handle the ganache perfectly, especially when emulsifying with the mixer, because you really have to emulsify it. So I spent five months creating hundreds of tests, which was labor intense, but a lot of fun. And I tried all the fillings over time, over several months, to see the gradation of texture and flavor and everything. And that was really cool. But as I said, if you're making small ganaches, I would not make a ganache smaller than 450 grams in total. All right, so here we have the two beautiful ganaches, super silky, super creamy. They do need some time to crystallize perfectly. When we have not tempered them, it will take longer for them to set, so these would need to sit overnight to fully crystallize. But we are gonna measure the water activity now when the ganaches are made fresh. I know for a fact that the water activity is gonna change a little bit when you let them crystallize. So before crystallization, it's gonna be one reading, and usually the day after it's gonna be slightly higher when it's crystallized and fully set. So we are gonna use the water activity meter. This was one of my first huge investments in my company. As I said, I wanted to create fillings from scratch with my own knowledge right in the beginning to make sure that I'm serving my ganaches and be very versatile in creating different fillings for the specific need that I wanted. So the water activity meter was actually something that I bought before a continuous tempering machine. They do cost a lot. There are some cheaper ones on the market, but I wanted to have a really good one that can detect and be very accurate, even if I have fillings where I have a lot of alcohol, herbs and things like that. That is gonna disrupt the reading a little bit if you don't have specific filters in the chamber here. So here we have the filters. So the filters up here is really important to be able for or make the machine read your ganaches perfectly and very accurately. Okay, so the first results are in, and I'm actually a little bit surprised because it was not really what I was thinking beforehand. Both of them are very efficient in lowering the water activity, but in this case, the Dextrose actually lowered the water activity more than the Sorbitol. I have to add that I've been questioning the brand of my Sorbitol a little bit. I've done some testing before, and I was a little bit like questioning the efficiency of my Sorbitol. So I might do the test again a little bit and see if that is a factor in this. But the Dextrose actually produce a 0.2 lower water activity, so 0.77. Compared to Sorbitol with 0.79. It could seem like it's not a lot, but when you're measuring water activity, 7.7 compared to 7.9 is quite a big jump. You always want to stay under 0.85, so we are well below the number that is going to produce a very stable and long shelf life for your fillings. But there's just one thing to do now, and it's to test the flavor. I'm pretty much sure that the Dextrose is gonna be way sweeter than the one that contains the Sorbitol. The ganache in the bags have crystallized partially now, so it's a little bit thicker than before. But I'll try the Sorbitol first. I'll mark them here. To be honest, I've added a little bit extra sugar with the Dextrose and Sorbitol in this application, a little bit more than we usually do, to make sure that we have a better measurement between them, so we have a little bit more sugar than the original ganache, so we can see the efficiency of the sugars. And because I added a little bit extra sugar, is going to be slightly sweeter than I'm used to with this application. And we also are using a milk chocolate, which is pretty sweet in itself. So it's not going to be the same with dark ganache. It's going to allow for a little bit more sugar in it and not be overly sweet. So this one is on the verge of being a little bit on the overly sweet side. So this is the Dextrose, and I expect this one to be quite a lot sweeter than the Sorbitol one. Yeah, it for sure is. With the Sorbitol one, I expect less sweetness, of course, and even though I have a little extra in the Sorbitol, I think the balance of the ganache is still fine, but on the sweeter side. With the Dextrose, it's just overly powering. It's just way too sweet for me. It really stands out, and you can basically like taste the Dextrose in here. So it's very, very sweet. Is one sugar better than the other? I would say no. They have similar functions, but they have different areas where they fits better. So in a milk chocolate where it's a little bit on the sweet side already, I would prefer to use the Sorbitol. Some people don't prefer to use Sorbitol at all, so that's not an option for them. If you're gonna make a darker ganache, you can allow for a little bit more sweetness. So if I have maybe an 80% ganache or 75% with a lot of acidity. For example, our sour palm 75% is very acidic. Then the efficiency of the dextrose and adding a little bit extra sweetness might just be fine for that application. So there's no like right and wrong here, but just a very interesting test to see which one performs best in the sense of lowering the water activity. And in this test, we got the dextrose as the winner of lowering the water activity. But I will also investigate a little bit more in the sorbitol that we use and see if there are more efficient ones out there in the market. So that could be a test as well. You can also use sorbitol in syrup form, and that could also be something that is more efficient than using it in powder form. Who knows? But I hope you like this test, and don't forget to like and subscribe. This is a new channel, so I really need your support to push this channel forward so we can do more testing and give you some testing on equipment, product and ideas that is interesting for me and for you in the business to really understand our products and develop as chocolatiers. Now, making bonbons can be very tricky and frustrating. Trust me, I know all about it, especially if you want to launch your own small business. I built my own company from scratch from my home kitchen, so I know all about your struggle. My courses are essentially filling the gaps of knowledge that I was missing when I was starting out, and chances are that you're facing the same issues as I had in the beginning. I can help you open up your creativity, since creativity is going to need a solid foundation of knowledge and also secure methods. You find the links to all my courses in the description below.